You're now listening to the smooth sounds of life after death. I'm your host, the Marcus Garrett. Let's get started with this week's episode. And this is the drop. Pod Houston is from our city of Houston, Texas, to the world, representing a family of podcasters passionate about community, connection, and collaboration. Today, I'm here with the founder. Welcome to the show, Ozeal.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure being here. And I just want to say that I want your voice, Marcus, from now on. From now on, man. Can we just trade voices, my man? Because I feel like if I had a golden voice like yours, I would be okay, man.
I appreciate it, man. That's why the platform was designed, a face made for podcasting, man.
That's right.
It's all worked out. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself, man.
So, Marcus, my name is Ozeal Debastos. I am a creator, community builder, and a coach. I like to call myself a content marketing coach because people know me as a podcast coach, which I've been doing for the past 4 or 5 years. But lately, it's transitioned and expanded rather into many forms of content marketing, more specifically video. And I think we're seeing now, Marcus, a blend of both, podcasters wanting to become YouTubers wanting to become podcasters. So I definitely help people create a content marketing strategy to showcase their leadership, to humanize their message, and to get on different platforms via their message.
I'm going to come back to that because I've already got a question. I don't want to derail too much. I'm going to jump into the life after death segment. I definitely want to talk to you about content marketing because I know that's big right now. And you got the people a little bit confused about how to do the reels and everything like that. So I think they'll be interested in the conversation around content too. The award-winning Life After Death segment is a chance for myself and guests to share motivational money stories. If you tried other debt-free plans but repeatedly failed to reach life after death, then click the link in your show notes to purchase a copy of my best-selling book, Debt-Free or Die Trying, or visit themarcusgarrett.com/debt-free and I'll send you a free PDF. This segment is made possible by our partners like Bright Sellers. And I know y'all like Bright Sellers because I can see the clicks behind the scenes and it's one of my best performing ads. So I appreciate y'all for the support. Bright Sellers is a monthly wine club that matches you with wine you'll love based on an algorithm that selects wines based on your taste preferences. Created to not only deliver exquisite wine, but to also give the added bonus of learning about your wines and own taste. Get 50% off your first order with your link in the show notes. And now, back to the show.
People in a B2B space leveraging the power of content marketing to distribute their voice, right? The brand story. And they're doing it in many facets, whether it's through social media marketing or creating a podcast or a YouTube channel to be able to build relationships and build brand authority in their niche.
And where does Pod Houston fall in that pie?
Yeah, Mark, that's a great question, my man, because Pod Houston is my pride and joy. So I launched Pod Houston about 5 years ago, and it all was started when I was looking around, and I've been in the podcasting space for a little over 10 years now. And during that time, I wanted to just connect with my people. I'm like, where are the podcasters at in Houston? And there was a great blogging community. There was even a YouTube community. But I couldn't find podcasters, and I decided to take it upon myself to create a meetup. It was called Beginner Podcast, and at the time, the intention was to bring people together, but also educate people on the power of podcasting. And sure enough, we put it together. About 20 people showed up. It was a great turnout, and they were asking, like, when's the next one? When can we do this again? And fast forward to 2022. Pod Houston has grown with over 2,000 email subscribers. It's grown, and also a community which you're a part of at the Facebook community. And of course, just launching different meetups and events have been super successful, bringing anywhere from 50 to 100 people per meetup. So it's been super successful. It's been amazing watching it grow as a community. And back then there was an interest in podcasting, but now we're seeing again a lot of people in different professions join us and go to these meetups and these events to learn a little bit more about podcasting. And a lot of them are actually podcasting and using it to leverage for their marketing efforts. So it's been an amazing journey, man. And I'm just so passionate about building community and bringing like-minded individuals together and teaching them the power of voice.
And I'm going to run it back a little bit and hit a few of those if you got them on top of mind. You said there's a blog community in Houston and a YouTube community in Houston. Do you know where those are off top, or I can grab those to you and drop them in the show notes?
Well, you know what, man, it's interesting because I'm actually running one of the YouTube communities now. I don't, so I actually have Pod Houston and Vid Houston.
Okay.
So I'm definitely, make sure I'll send you some links so you can share it with your people.
I'm big on the hashtag plugs.
Oh yeah, man.
And then I came up through the blogosphere.
I like to, even with my coaching clients, I like to break it down with my 3-part framework. And I use the acronym BAM, like BAM, BAM. And the B stands for build your brand. The A stands for attract your audience. And then the third one is monetize your message. And I believe that if you do it in that order, you'll have a successful podcast. So for anybody who's watching or listening to this, if you're thinking about starting a podcast, really dial in your brand and really build and understand your brand messaging, the brand tonality, the vibe, the identity. And then you can attract an audience and then really focus on just building relationships with your target audience. And that's another thing, Marcus, that I see it's a common mistake a lot of podcasters make when they get into this space is they skip the branding part, and then they're wondering how come I'm not building my podcast brand. Where is the audience, right? That's one of the common questions. How can I grow my podcast audience? And in order to attract an audience, you gotta make sure that you have a defined brand that's going to tailor the content for the audience. Meaning that when you launch a podcast, what is this for? It's for them, not really for you. And I think selfishly, a lot of people get into this space thinking it's about them. But at the end of the day, we're building an audience, we're building community. And that's how you can monetize and, expand and figure out different ways where you can make money on the mic. So again, the third one would be after attracting the audience is monetize your message. And as you do a very great job at, Marcus, is just having, brand sponsorship, pre-roll and different ad space for businesses to promote on your podcast or on your platform, and, affiliate marketing. And I can go on and on. It's been really awesome just to see how much attraction it's been happening and a lot of money being poured into this podcasting space. But that is it. I mean, pretty much in a nutshell, my man, 3-part framework, BAM, build your brand, attract your audience, and then you can monetize your message, not the other way around. I get a lot of people trying to be like, how can I make money on the mic? And like, well, you got to build a brand. You have to have an audience where you can actually make money. So if you do it in that order, you'll have a lot of success with your podcast.
I appreciate it. I can see you're a trained professional. I was going to tell you you did it already. It's the sandwich method for those of you listening at home. You tell them what you're about to tell them. You hit them with the BAM. You tell them what you told them, and then you repeat what they just learned. So I appreciate it.
Man. There it is.
And I also want to give a shout out. A little under 10 years, about 2013 or so when I started. Okay. Rebranded in 2016. Took a year off between the pandemic and just life, and just like, I can't do this anymore. Kind of had the existential, where's it all going? Coming up on 40. So I had to, I had some things to deal with. Came back with in 2022, and actually I wasn't even planning to do a podcast. I had my newsletter. At that time I had just like 200 folks, just some folks I brought over. It's at 6,000 now, and I was just like, and actually I believe it was Tony that said, you just need to have your voice out there. It's just a megaphone for you to have your voice out there. And I was like, all right, well, what am I going to do? And I was like, well, I could name it DeMarcus Garrett. It's my name. It's an idea that I already had the website. That's pretty straightforward. And I was like, but I don't know. I have no idea what type of show I'm gonna do. I don't know what, I put it under entertainment. I put it under, people knew me from the books. I was like, I'm kind of over personal finance, but that's what people know me for. I niche into that. And the best advice, I'm at 97 videos now. I have no idea how many episodes. I think this is number 58. And he's like, drop 50 episodes. He's like, instead of trying to figure out what you're going to do, and this is before I knew the insight about like less than 20% drop more than 6. He's like, instead of trying to figure out what you're going to do in your audience and, and all that, and you're coming at it with no brand and no name behind you besides Marcus Garrett, obviously. He's like, drop 50 episodes, and those 50 episodes will teach you. You'll find your passion. You'll find your audience. And so I set out to do that. I think I recently passed it, but that was like some of the great advice greatest advice I've gotten in this space, even 10 years into the game, because I didn't know what I was going to do with this podcast. Similar to your BAM Insider, do you have any kind of thoughts, or, you know, have you seen that with others? Have you seen that in yourself? Just how do you find your voice?
You just said it. It's by putting in the reps, by doing the work. And I love that you said that, because I know, as much as I'm a big believer and preach, you know, the BAM method of dialing in your brand. I also gotten some pushback, and people be like, well, what if you don't have a brand? Do I have to, like, you know, spend all this time trying to figure it out? And I do believe that, you know, being able to dial in your brand messaging is important to get started, or at least to kind of come out the gate swinging. But I think if you're a creative, especially, this is something that a lot of creatives go through, is like, well, I'm multi-passionate, you know, have a lot of things that I want to talk about. And one of the things that I always say is, well, you know what, go ahead and get started. In due time, not only are you going to discover a lot of things that you need to work on as a podcast host, whether it's becoming better at the art of the interview, or really understanding the mic etiquette, and the energy. And there's so many aspects, so many facets about being a great podcast host, that when you're 50 deep in, you start really learning and start cultivating skill sets, communication, energy, etc. And you'll start becoming a better podcaster. So you can always pivot. And like you said, man, you can always rebrand. You can make changes to it. I think that's why I'm a big believer in, if you don't have your brand dialed in, it's okay to just go ahead and get started. And then you'll kind of manifest that brand that you need to go, and that market you need to tailor for.
I agree, and we didn't rehearse this. I think this is Tony as well. So you have BAM, and he recommended, when I was kind of getting started, he's like, come up with 2 to 4. You know, I had like this paragraph, because I'm not in marketing. That's not my strong suit. I had this paragraph of passion that I wanted. He's like, you need to get that down to 2 to 4 words, and it took me about a year. I mean, we're at Life After Debt. Which those of you who kind of followed, it's, you know, the Marcus Garrett Show. I've kind of toyed around, and I don't announce a lot of it too. I just I put things out there and I see what works. I put out some logos, and like I said, just refining that. So now, you know, here we are, August 2022. Who knows where we'll be in 23? It's Life After Debt, which is the rebranded show. Y'all see the new logo, and the tagline is motivational money stories. Like, what is something you could tell somebody in an elevator and they would know what your show would be about? I was like, well, I wrote a book, Debt Free or Die Trying. I have a podcast that's Life After Debt. And what do I do on that podcast? We have motivational money stories.
That right there, for our viewers and listeners listening, that is how you that's a brand. Like, Life After Debt, simple, it's direct. It tells you, has keywords that are within the title. And then, of course, you know, you're killing them with that tagline, man. That tagline is awesome. So that is what great branding looks like. And when you have a brand like that, you could definitely not only maximize and really start attracting that audience, but that's when it really gets fun and interesting, when you start having a dialed-in brand and knowing exactly who you're going to speak to. So great job there, Marcus. Great job, my man.
Well, you know,
give you your flowers.
Key to overnight success is the first 10 years. So it only took 10 years, and in the 11th year, I figured out my 2 to 4 words.
It's a process, as they say, my man, right? It's a process.
I want to bring it back to Pod Houston. I really just maybe pick your brain a little bit here. Where does either Pod Houston or community and networking come in?
So it comes in where just through live events, and with Pod Houston specifically, Marcus, you know, my goal was, you know, to bring like-minded individuals who are interested in podcasting, but I wanted Pod Houston to be the go-to resource for not only just, you know, tools and how to be successful as a podcaster, but also like having accountability and having support, and again, providing resources, providing support, and then just providing community, where I believe that, you know, that's where we thrive in. I think now, especially with post-COVID, you know, people are really yearning for community. And I always say, you know, community has always been, but it's currency, man. It's luxury, you know. And I think without having and being tapped into the community, you know, it's hard to grow, you know, a business, and it's hard to grow your confidence if you're not surrounded around individuals who get what you are doing. So that is my main focus with Pod Houston, man. Just moving forward is continue growing it, continue expanding with the right individuals, and really tailoring it for leaders from whether it's business or creatives to come in here and then leverage the power of voice and to build like a true, authentic community and a platform with their podcast, man.
And keeping true to my word here, I'm gonna hit 2 to 4. I actually had to strike through. I was dropping so many down here. One you said earlier, put in the reps. I thought that's really good. Yeah. And I think that's something that will resonate with people. I hear this all the time, and you said it as well, like-minded individuals. So strengthening your circle and have the right circle, the right 5, 10, 15, 20, but especially the right 5 people around you. That's accountability. Right. And I'll end with is yours authenticity. I really like those. Yes. So I just want to, highlight those 2 to 4 to people.
I appreciate it, brother.
That I am paying attention at home.
Breaking it down.
On a spotlight. Yeah. I want to spotlight one that I saw recently. This was July, and then asked the question, what do you see for Pod Houston, or really the community at large for 22 and 2023? You did Women in Podcasting. Any highlights from that, or you kind of want to talk about how that came together?
One of the things that I take great pride in with Pod Houston, and there's some pretty awesome communities out there, Marcus, but one of the things that I take pride in is the fact that our Pod, and you went to our one of our meetups recently, and we really are about spotlighting diversity. And I think being that it's, our home, Houston is one of the most diverse cities in the world, in the country. And we really spotlight that. And when you come to our events, you do see people from different backgrounds that are podcasting. And when you go to an event, you see that. You see a reflection of what Houston represents. And, the women in podcasting, obviously women, especially when it comes to, women of color, it's growing and it's growing. I love seeing, the people of color get into the space and using podcasting as a form of leadership and getting their message out. And there were so many takeaways, man. But one of the things that really just stood out was just how supportive women in podcasting are, and how, the stats show that they're super loyal when it comes to listening to podcasts, listening to ads, and really supporting their podcast host. So it's been awesome to see, when the rise of women in podcasting, but now we're seeing a rise. And again, people of color, they just recently released a Latino stat, and they were talking about like Latinos getting involved in Latin America, how now it's growing, emerging.
Part of the introduction for when we met in person, that's podcast movement. So you want to know all things going on in podcasts. That's how I stay on top of things. I'm a member of their newsletter. You'll see me plug some things in my own newsletter, and you can sign up for that, or I'll drop it in your show notes. Where can folks join your newsletter?
So you can head over to, actually the best place, we're about to revamp, podhouston.com is our website, but we're about to do a revamp of the website. We're going to provide a lot more resources, a lot more tools for our podcasters, but definitely head over to our Facebook group. It's an amazing group. It's growing every single day, and that's where you can join us and join in on the conversation and meet a lot of podcasters, not only from Houston, Marcus. You meet a lot of podcasters from all over the world, and they're really enjoying the community and the engagement we're seeing in there.
I appreciate it. I'm going to take us to the wrap, and then I'm going to turn the mic over to you for anything that you want to plug or hit. And this is The Wrap. The Wrap. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a second to leave a 5-star review. And we want to hear from you. You know now that you can leave a voicemail, because I did a listener voicemail feature. Shout out to Steve from Arkansas. And actually he responded to, what was the question of the week? Does every couple need 4 bank accounts? Which was a suggestion from Steve Harvey. Y'all can find that in the thread in the last episode. So check that out. I'm still taking response if you want to leave a voicemail. That'll also enter you into an automatic cash giveaway for Cash App. I'm doing $25 right now. I'll choose one random winner a month, and you can receive a shout out on an upcoming episode of Life After Debt with your host, the Marcus Garrett. If that was all too much for you, you can of course visit the website, and I'll directly email you at themarcusgarrett.com/show. Thank you, Ozeal. And before we get on our way, please tell the people where they can find out more about you. And actually, hold on here, talking about flowers, you got to plug yourself. Don't you have your own podcast at No Permission Needed? So please hit both.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Marcus, for inviting me to be on this show, man. I really, really enjoyed it. So yes, I definitely have a podcast called No Permission Needed. It's a personal development podcast for coaches and creators and for leaders in any industry. It's a weekly podcast. And if you are in the Houston area, surrounding areas, I am hosting an in-person live workshop teaching you everything you need to know about launching a successful podcast in 2022 and beyond. It's going to be September 17th. Again, we're going to have live location. We're going to have breakfast. We're going to have lunch. And it's going to be interactive, collaborative, and I'm really excited. It'll be my first in-person workshop post-COVID. The last one was about 3 years ago. So I'm really looking forward to doing these workshops in person. And of course, we have a great collaboration. This is an exclusive, by the way, guys. October 14th, we are teaming up with PodFest, which is another big major podcast conference. And they're coming to Texas, and they reached out to Pod Houston to collaborate on an event October 14th. So we're really excited to be a part of their Texas tour. And that's pretty much it. We got a lot going on. So make sure that you stay connected at podhouston.com and, of course, in our Facebook group. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely, man. Peace.